Hello guys, welcome to Fictional Vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto was the last celestial spirit king. Naruto x Erza x Mirajane, fairy tale. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1, Starfall. The celestial spirit world trembled. Again. Naruto Uzumaki, dressed in flowing white robes adorned with golden symbols of the zodiac, braced himself against the crystal throne as another quake shook the cosmic palace. His spiky blonde hair and the whisker marks on his cheeks remained the same as they'd always been, but his eyes now shimmered with an otherworldly blue glow. "That's the third one today," Naruto muttered, standing up and walking to the massive window that overlooked the vast expanse of stars and cosmic phenomena that made up his kingdom. "And they're getting worse." Leo the lion, materialized beside him, adjusting his sunglasses with a concerned frown. "The outer gates are becoming unstable, my king. 3 more spirits have vanished since morning. Drop the king stuff, would ya?" "It's still just Naruto," he said, running a hand through his hair in frustration. "And what do you mean vanished? Spirits don't just disappear." "They do now," Locke replied grimly. "Something's draining the celestial energy that connects us to our essence. Without it, they fade," Naruto finished, his jaw clenching. "Show me." They moved through the palace corridors at a brisk pace, servants and minor spirits bowing as they passed. Naruto still wasn't used to that part. 6 months since the previous Spirit King had chosen him as successor with his dying breath, and the formality still made him uncomfortable. "You know," Naruto said as they descended the crystal staircase, "when I agreed to sacrifice myself to seal Kaguya and save both worlds at the end of the 4th Great Ninja War, I didn't exactly expect to wake up with a cosmic crown and responsibility for an entire realm." "Fate has strange plans," Locke replied. "And the previous king saw something in you that no celestial spirit has possessed in millennia." "Yeah, well, he could have asked first," Naruto grumbled, though there was no real heat in his complaint. They reached the observation chamber where Ares and Virgo stood before a massive pool of shimmering liquid that reflected the state of the spirit gates. The surface rippled violently, with dark patches spreading like infection across the cosmic map. "It's accelerating," Virgo said, her chains clinking as she bowed. "Punishment time for bringing bad news, my king." Naruto sighed. "No, Virgo. And stop asking that." He crouched by the pool, dipping his fingers into the liquid. Immediately, images flashed through his mind, gates buckling, spirits crying out, and a familiar energy signature that made his blood run cold. "This power, it feels like chakra, but twisted. Someone's deliberately targeting the gates." "From Earthland?" Ares asked timidly. "No," Naruto stood, his robes swirling around him as determination hardened his features. "It's coming from both sides. Someone who knows both worlds." He turned to Locke. "I need to go to Earthland. The source is strongest there, and I can track it better from that side." "The council won't like you leaving during a crisis," Locke warned. Naruto flashed his old fox-like grin. "Since when have I cared what councils think? Besides, I'm still me. Shadow clone jutsu." With a puff of smoke, 3 perfect copies of Naruto appeared, each radiating the same celestial energy as the original. "You guys handle things here," Naruto instructed his clones. "Keep the gate stable and make sure no more spirits vanish. I'm going hunting." The clones nodded in unison. One spoke up, "Don't worry, boss. We got this." Locke looked impressed despite himself. "I still can't get used to that. No spirit king has ever been able to be in multiple places at once." "That's 'cause they never had to deal with Irika-senseis." "Boring lectures," Naruto quipped, already summoning his power. "I'll find whoever's messing with our world and remind them why it's a bad idea to piss off a ninja, especially one with cosmic powers." His body began to glow with golden energy mixed with the familiar red chakra of Kurama. The nine-tailed fox might be separated from him in this new existence, but their connection had left permanent changes to Naruto's energy signature. "I'll meet you in Magnolia," Naruto told Locke. "That's where the disruption feels strongest." "I'll alert Lucy and the others," Locke nodded. Naruto closed his eyes, focusing on the thinning spot between realms. "Time to see if I've still got it." With a flash of golden light tinged with orange, the celestial spirit king vanished from his realm. Magnolia was exactly as Locke had described it, charming, vibrant, and currently under attack. Naruto materialized in mid-air above the town square, quickly taking in the scene below. Figures in dark robes with silver masks were attacking civilians while extracting something glowing from terrified victims. He immediately recognized the energy signature, celestial magic being forcibly harvested. "Well, that didn't take long," he muttered, plummeting toward the ground. He landed with enough force to crater the cobblestones, the impact sending several attackers flying. Standing slowly, Naruto rolled his shoulders as curious and frightened townsfolk stared at the blonde stranger who'd fallen from the sky. "Hey!" Naruto called out to the masked figures. "I'm pretty sure those people weren't offering their magic as a donation." One of the taller attackers turned, revealing a mask inscribed with strange runes. "The void hungers for all light. Your interference is meaningless." Yeah. Evil cult speech. "Got it," Naruto cracked his knuckles. "Let's see how meaningless this is." He moved, not with the flash step he'd known as Hokage, but with something new, a celestial shift that bent space itself. One moment he stood in the crater, the next he was behind three cultists, palm strikes already connecting with their pressure points. The cultists collapsed, their silver masks cracking to reveal pale, almost translucent skin beneath. Naruto frowned at the sight. These weren't normal humans. A bolt of dark energy sizzled past his ear, forcing him to duck and roll. 5 more cultists surrounded him, their hands weaving complex magical patterns. "Void consumption," they chanted in unison. Dark tendrils erupted from their fingertips, snaking toward Naruto with hungry intent. He recognized the spell, similar to what was affecting the spirit gates. "Not happening," Naruto growled. He slammed his palm to the ground. Celestial barrier. Golden light erupted in a perfect circle around him, dissolving the dark tendrils on contact. The cultists hissed in surprise. "You're not from this world," one of them accused. Naruto straightened, allowing his disguise to slip just enough that his eyes glowed with cosmic power. "Neither are you, from the looks of it. So how about we skip to the part where you tell me who's draining celestial energy from my spirits?" Instead of answering, the cultists raised their arms in unison. "For Lord Thanatos and the coming void." Before they could complete whatever spell they were preparing, a voice rang out from behind Naruto. "Fire Dragon's Roar." A massive stream of fire engulfed 3 of the cultists, sending them screaming backward. Naruto glanced over his shoulder to see a pink-haired young man with a scaly scarf grinning wildly. "Don't know who you are, Blondie, but anyone fighting these creeps is good with me," the newcomer shouted. More figures appeared, a woman with scarlet hair wielding a massive sword, a shirtless dark-haired man with ice forming around his hands, a blonde woman with keys at her belt, and a white-haired beauty whose arms were transforming into demonic claws. Fairy Tail had arrived. Naruto couldn't help the grin that spread across his face. Perfect timing. "I'm Naruto, and these guys are stealing celestial energy." The blonde woman with keys gasped. "That's why my spirits have been feeling weak." "Lucy's right," said a blue cat, a talking blue cat, which Naruto found only mildly surprising given everything else he'd seen. "Happy couldn't even carry Natsu for more than a minute yesterday." The scarlet-haired woman stepped forward, her armor gleaming in the sunlight. "I am Erza Scarlet. If these fiends are threatening the spirits, they face the wrath of Fairy Tail." More cultists poured into the square, at least 30 now surrounding the mages. Their leader, taller than the rest with a mask made of what looked like bone, pointed at Naruto. "The false king reveals himself." Lord Thanatos will be pleased. Naruto raised an eyebrow. False king. That's a new one. Usually, I just get demon brat or knucklehead. The fire breather, Natsu, apparently, laughed. I like this guy. Hey, false king, wanna see who can take down more of these creeps? You're on. Naruto replied instantly, the thrill of battle and the familiarity of fighting alongside comrades washing away months of royal tedium. The battle erupted across the town square. Natsu's fire and Gray's ice tore through cultists while Lucy summoned a mermaid spirit who washed away another group with a massive tidal wave. The white-haired woman, who Naruto later learned was Mirajane, transformed fully into a demonic form that sent cultists fleeing in terror. But it was Erza who caught Naruto's attention most. She fought with precision and power, equipping different armors and weapons mid-battle with a grace that reminded him of dancing. There was something in her eyes, though, a guardedness, a suspicion whenever they landed on him. Naruto had little time to dwell on it as he faced the bone-masked leader. Unlike his followers, this one moved with the fluid grace of a trained warrior. Your interference is temporary, the leader hissed, hands forming complex patterns. The harvesting continues across many towns, and soon the boundary will be weak enough for our lord's return. Many towns? Naruto's eyes narrowed. So this is bigger than Magnolia. Everywhere celestial magic flows, the leader confirmed, seemingly eager to boast. The stars themselves will darken before. Naruto didn't let him finish, closing the distance in a blink and driving a Rasengan into the cultist's chest. Less talking, more fighting. The spiraling sphere of energy, now tinged with golden celestial power, sent the leader crashing through a nearby wall. Naruto pursued, determined to capture at least one for questioning. Inside the damaged building, the leader was already on his feet, pulling something from his robes, a lacrima crystal pulsing with stolen celestial energy. No. Naruto lunged forward, but the cultist crushed the crystal in his hand, absorbing its power. Dark energy crackled around him as his form began to change, growing larger, skin hardening into scales. The void provides, the transforming cultist growled, voice deepening to an inhuman register. Lord Thanatos grants us strength through consumption. And I thought Orochimaru's transformations were ugly, Naruto muttered, preparing for a more serious fight. The creature lunged, now 8 feet tall with clawed hands that leaked corrosive darkness. Naruto dodged the first swipe, feeling reality itself warp where the claws passed. Whatever this transformation was, it affected more than just physical form. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. Natsu burst through the hole in the wall, flaming fist connecting with the creature's jaw. The blow sent it staggering, but it recovered quickly, turning its attention to the dragon slayer. More fodder for the void, it growled, launching toward Natsu. Ice Make, Lance. Gray's attack pierced through the creature's shoulder, ice spreading across its scaly hide. Erza appeared next, now in black armor covered in spikes. Black wing armor. She slashed through the creature's defenses, drawing a howl of pain. Naruto watched their teamwork with approval, then decided to end this before the creature could endanger more civilians. He closed his eyes briefly, drawing on the power that still felt new and yet increasingly familiar. Star Sage Mode, he whispered. Golden energy crackled around him, his whisker marks deepening as celestial power mixed with his natural chakra. When he opened his eyes, they had changed, concentric circles of blue and gold, reminiscent of the Rinnegan but with the celestial power of his new position. Erza sensed the change, turning sharply toward him. What are you? Trust me, Naruto said, his voice resonating with power. Everyone get back. To their credit, the fairy tale mages immediately created distance, though Erza did so with visible reluctance. Naruto faced the creature, which seemed to recognize the transformation. The usurper, it snarled. You sit upon a stolen throne. Maybe, Naruto replied calmly. But I'm still the one who's gonna kick your ass. He raised his hand, and stars seemed to bend toward him, tiny points of light gathering in his palm. Celestial Rasengan, Starfall. The swirling orb of energy in his hand grew, incorporating the gathered starlight until it blazed like a miniature sun. With practiced ease that belied the incredible power he wielded, Naruto drove the attack into the creature's chest. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to bend inward before exploding outward in a controlled burst of golden energy. The creature let out an unearthly scream as its form dissolved, leaving only the human cultist collapsed on the floor. Naruto let Star Sage mode fade, rolling his shoulders as the excessive power receded. That was more intense than I expected. The fairy tale mages stared at him with varying degrees of shock, awe, and suspicion. Natsu was the first to break the silence. That was awesome. What kind of magic was that? Are you some kind of celestial wizard like Lucy? Before Naruto could answer, Erza stepped forward, sword still drawn. That wasn't any celestial magic I've ever seen. Who are you really? Mirajane placed a gentle hand on Erza's armored shoulder. Perhaps we should let him explain, Erza. He did help us fight off those cultists. Lucy moved closer to the unconscious cultist. These people were stealing celestial energy. My spirits have been complaining about feeling weak for weeks now. Could that be related to why you're here? Naruto looked at each of them, weighing how much to reveal. The previous Spirit King had warned him about carelessly exposing the true nature of the spirit world to Earthland mages, but these people had proven themselves allies already. I'm not from around here, he began cautiously. I'm connected to the celestial spirit world. Those cultists are part of a group that's been draining energy from the gates between worlds. If they succeed, the spirits will fade, and both our worlds could be in danger. Connected how? Erza pressed, still suspicious. Naruto scratched his cheek. It's complicated. Let's just say I have a vested interest in keeping the spirits safe. He's like me, Loke's voice came from behind them. The spirit had materialized in the doorway, looking slightly worn but otherwise intact. Only much more powerful. Loke! Lucy exclaimed. You know him? Everyone in the spirit world knows Naruto, Loke said with a slight bow toward Naruto, which made him cringe. He's our friend, Naruto cut in quickly, shooting Loke a warning look. I'm a friend to the spirits, from a different world altogether. When I sensed they were in danger, I came to help. Loke raised an eyebrow but played along. Yes, our friend. Who happens to wield extraordinary power and has taken a particular interest in this situation. Gray folded his arms across his bare chest. So these cult guys are draining celestial energy across Fiori. For what purpose? That's what I need to find out, Naruto replied, walking over to the unconscious cultist and crouching beside him. This one mentioned someone called Lord Thanatos and something about weakening boundaries for his return. Thanatos? Lucy looked thoughtful. I've never heard of a celestial spirit with that name. That's because he isn't one, Loke said grimly. At least, not anymore. All eyes turned to the spirit, who adjusted his glasses nervously. There are legends in our world, Loke continued carefully, about spirits who were banished for trying to consume the power of others. Thanatos was supposedly one of the most powerful, cast out eons ago for attempting to absorb the power of the Zou, ancient history, Naruto interrupted. What matters is that someone's draining celestial energy now, and we need to stop them. Erza narrowed her eyes at the interruption but focused on the immediate threat. If this is happening across Fiori, we need to alert the Magic Council and coordinate with other guilds. No time, Naruto said, standing up. These cultists are moving fast, and they're already weakening the barriers between worlds. I need to track down their main operation now. Then Fairy Tail will assist you, Mirajane offered with a gentle smile that somehow seemed to ease the tension in the room. Our guild has a vested interest in protecting the spirits too. Many of our members rely on celestial magic. Naruto looked at her, struck by the kindness in her eyes that somehow reminded him of Hinata. There was strength there too, he'd seen her demonic form in battle, but it was tempered by something warm and genuine. I appreciate the offer, he said, returning her smile. But this could be dangerous in ways you can't imagine. These cultists are messing with the fabric between worlds. Natsu punched his fist into his palm, producing a small burst of flame. Sounds like fun. We deal with world-ending threats before breakfast around here. Erza stepped forward, having apparently made a decision. You said this affects multiple locations. We should return to the guild and coordinate from there. Master Makarov will want to hear about this threat. Naruto hesitated, then nodded. These mages clearly knew the territory better than he did, and having allies had always been his strength. Besides, working with them would let him keep an eye on them, particularly the suspicious Erza, who watched him like she expected him to sprout extra heads at any moment. All right, he agreed. Lead the way to Fairy Tail. The guild hall was exactly what Naruto would have expected from a place called Fairy Tail, boisterous, slightly chaotic, and filled with an energy that reminded him of Konoha on festival days. As they entered, several members were already engaged in what appeared to be a friendly brawl, while others sat drinking or chatting at scattered tables. We're back. Natsu announced unnecessarily loudly. Immediately getting pulled into a scuffle with a large man with white hair who yelled something about being manly. Mirajane laughed softly beside Naruto. Don't mind them. This is just how Fairy Tail welcomes people back from missions. Reminds me of home, Naruto admitted, a nostalgic smile crossing his face as he thought of Team 7's constant bickering. Is your home similar to this? Mirajane asked, guiding him through the chaos toward the bar. In some ways. Less drinking, more ramen, Naruto replied with a grin. But the same spirit, people who'd fight each other 1 minute and die for each other the next. Something in his tone must have revealed more than he intended because Mirajane's eyes softened with understanding. You miss it very much, don't you? Before Naruto could respond, a diminutive old man hopped onto the bar counter. Despite his small stature, his presence commanded immediate respect. So you're the stranger my children have brought home, the old man said, eyes sharp as he assessed Naruto. I am Makarov Dreyer, guild master of Fairy Tail. Naruto recognized power when he saw it. This tiny old man reminded him of the third Hokage, unassuming at first glance, but radiating wisdom and strength. Naruto Uzumaki, he introduced himself with a respectful nod. Thanks for letting me crash your party. Naruto claims to be from another world connected to the celestial spirit realm, Erza explained, her tone making it clear she wasn't entirely convinced. He fought against cultists who were harvesting celestial energy in town. Locke vouches for him, Lucy added. Says everyone in the spirit world knows him. Makarov's gaze intensified. Is that so? And what brings someone with such connections to Magnolia? The guild had quieted now, mages gathering around to hear the conversation. Naruto felt dozens of curious eyes on him, reminding him uncomfortably of council meetings in the spirit world. The short version. Naruto leaned against the bar. Someone's draining power from the gates between worlds. Spirits are vanishing, the boundaries are weakening, and if it continues, both worlds are in danger. I tracked the energy disturbance here to Magnolia, but according to the cultists we captured, they're operating all over Fiore. They mentioned someone called Lord Thanatos, Gray added. Locke seemed to know something about him, but wasn't forthcoming with details. All eyes turned to Locke, who had remained close to Lucy's side. The spirit sighed. It's not my place to share all the spirit world's secrets, he said, glancing at Naruto for guidance. Tell them what they need to know, Naruto decided. These people are fighting to protect their world, they deserve to understand what they're up against. Locke nodded. Thanatos was once among the most powerful celestial spirits, second only to the Spirit King himself. But he grew hungry for more power and attempted to absorb the energy of the zodiac spirits, the 12 strongest gates. For this, he was banished from our world, cast into a void between realms. So how's he back and building a cult? Natsu asked bluntly. He's not back yet, Naruto clarified. These cultists are weakening the boundaries to allow his return. They're harvesting celestial energy to feed to him across the void, strengthening him while weakening the barriers that keep him contained. Makarov stroked his mustache thoughtfully. This is troubling news indeed. If these cultists are operating throughout Fiori, we must act quickly. He turned to address the guild. Fairy Tale. We have a new mission of the highest priority. Teams will be dispatched to major cities to investigate and stop these celestial energy drains. The guild erupted in cheers and shouts of excitement, the prospect of action clearly appealing to them. Naruto watched with a mixture of amusement and nostalgia. They reminded him so much of his friends back home. Natsu, Gray, Erza, Lucy, Makarov continued. You will remain with our guest and investigate the Magnolia branch of this cult. They've already shown themselves here, which means their operation in this city must be significant. What about me, Master? Mirajane asked. Makarov considered her. You'll join them, Mira. Your takeover magic may prove useful against these cultists, especially if they continue to transform as reported. Erza stepped forward. Master, I request permission to speak with our guest privately before we begin the mission. There are details I wish to clarify. The old man's eyes twinkled knowingly. Of course, Erza. Use the library, it should be quiet enough for your clarifications. Naruto raised an eyebrow but followed Erza toward a doorway at the back of the guild hall. As they walked, he felt Mirajane's gaze on his back, curious rather than suspicious. The library was small but cozy, with books lining the walls and a large table in the center. Erza closed the door behind them and immediately equipped a new sword, pointing it directly at Naruto's throat. Now, she said calmly, tell me who you really are and what you're hiding from us. Naruto didn't flinch, meeting her gaze steadily. I told you the truth. I'm connected to the spirit world, and I'm here to stop Thanatos. Locke nearly called you something else before you interrupted him, Erza pressed, the sword unwavering. And that power you used wasn't any celestial magic I've ever seen. It felt older. Deeper. Naruto sighed. This woman was too perceptive for her own good. Look, I'm on your side here. Does it really matter exactly what my title is? In my experience, Erza replied coolly, those who hide their true identity rarely have innocent reasons for doing so. He could respect her caution, it was the same instinct that had kept him alive through years of being a shinobi. But they didn't have time for extended trust-building exercises. Fine, Naruto decided, straightening to his full height. I'm the Celestial Spirit King. The sword dipped slightly in surprise before Erza recovered. That's impossible. The Spirit King is a giant with a mustache. Lucy has seen him. The previous king, Naruto clarified. He chose me as his successor when he was dying. Trust me, I was as surprised as you are. Why would the Spirit King choose a human successor? Erza demanded, though her sword had lowered further. Who said I was human? Naruto countered with a fox-like grin, allowing his eyes to flash briefly with their celestial glow. Erza studied him intensely. You look human. You act human. More human than most spirits I've encountered. I was human, Naruto admitted. Before the war, before I sacrificed myself to save my world. I was pulled into the void between realms, and the old Spirit King found me. Said something about my spirit being exactly what the celestial world needed, someone who understood humans but had the power to guard the stars. And you didn't tell us this because... Spirit world politics, Naruto shrugged. The transition hasn't been smooth. Some of the older spirits aren't thrilled about having an outsider on the throne. If word got out that I was wandering around Earthland instead of stabilizing the realm, it would cause problems. Erza finally lowered her sword completely, though wariness remained in her eyes. I still don't fully trust you, but your explanation makes sense of what I've observed. I'm not asking for blind trust, Naruto said. Just a chance to work together to stop a threat that endangers both our worlds. After a long moment, Erza nodded and equipped her sword away. Very well, Spirit King. But know this, if you betray Fairy Tail or endanger my friends, no cosmic power will save you from my blades. Naruto grinned, oddly comforted by the threat. It reminded him of Sakura's promises of violence whenever he did something stupid. Understood. And please, it's just Naruto. I get enough of the king stuff back home. As they returned to the main hall, Naruto noticed Mirajane watching their return with interest, a knowing smile playing at her lips. Something about her gaze suggested she saw more than others, perhaps a benefit of her demonic takeover magic, allowing her to sense the inhuman aspect of his power. Makarov had organized the guild into teams, each assigned to a different city. As Naruto approached, the old master fixed him with a penetrating look. Did you and Erza sort out your differences? He asked, clearly aware that something significant had transpired. For now, Naruto replied with a glance at Erza, who gave a slight nod. Excellent. Then your team should prepare to investigate immediately. According to our intelligence, there have been reports of strange activity in the forest east of Magnolia, possibly connected to these cultists. Lucy held up a silver key. I'll check with my spirits, see if they've sensed anything unusual in that area. Good idea, Naruto approved. The spirits are sensitive to disturbances in celestial energy. They might pick up on things we'd miss. As the team gathered supplies, Mirajane approached Naruto with a small pack. I prepared some food and water for you, since you're new to our world and probably didn't come prepared for an expedition. The simple kindness caught him off guard. Thanks. That's really thoughtful. It's nothing, she smiled. We take care of our friends at Fairy Tail. Are we friends already? Naruto asked, genuinely curious. Mirajane tilted her head slightly. You helped protect our town and now you're risking yourself to save both our worlds. In Fairy Tail, that makes you family, not just a friend. The word struck something deep in Naruto's chest. Family. It had been so long since he'd felt that kind of belonging. The spirit world respected him, feared him even, but the warm camaraderie he'd known in Konoha had been missing. I'd like that, he said quietly. It's been a while since I had a family. Something in his tone must have revealed more than he intended because Mirajane's expression softened with understanding. Before she could respond, Natsu bounded over, energy practically radiating from him. Ready to go kick some cult butt, spirit guy, he grinned, either unaware of or unconcerned with Naruto's true identity. Born ready, Naruto replied, slinging the pack Mirajane had given him over his shoulder. And it's Naruto, not spirit guy. Whatever you say, Whiskers. Natsu laughed, darting away before Naruto could retort. Erza approached, now dressed in practical armor for traveling. We should move quickly. Daylight is wasting, and these forests can be treacherous after dark. As they headed out, Naruto fell into step beside Mirajane at the back of the group. So, what's your story? That transformation earlier was pretty impressive. Satan Soul, she explained. It's takeover magic. I can absorb demonic entities and use their powers as my own. Containing a powerful entity inside yourself, Naruto mused. I know something about that. Mirajane glanced at him curiously. You do. Where I come from, I had a nine-tailed fox demon sealed inside me since birth, Naruto explained, surprised at how easily the words came. Kurama. We hated each other at first, but eventually became partners. What happened to him? Mirajane asked gently. Naruto looked up at the sky, where the first stars were beginning to appear in the late afternoon. We got separated when I changed. I missed the old furball, though he'd hate hearing me say that. I understand, Mirajane said softly. My magic comes from a difficult past too. Demons destroyed my village when I was young. My sister Lisanna almost died because I couldn't control my powers. The vulnerability in her admission struck Naruto. But you mastered it. Turned your curse into strength. As did you, it seems, she replied with a warm smile that reached her eyes. Ahead of them, Lucy had summoned Plu, a small dog-like spirit that was currently dancing around Natsu's feet. Gray and Erza led the way, bickering about the best route through the forest. Despite the serious nature of their mission, the fairy tale mages maintained a light-hearted energy that was infectious. They're always like this? Naruto asked, nodding toward the group. Mirajane laughed. Always. Even facing the end of the world, fairy tale finds reasons to smile. It's our greatest strength. Reminds me of my old team, Naruto said, nostalgia coloring his voice. Sakura would be hitting me over the head right now for not having a better plan, and Sasuke would be pretending he's too cool to care while secretly plotting 3 steps ahead. You must miss them terribly, Mirajane observed. Naruto nodded. Every day. But, he stopped abruptly, senses flaring as he detected a familiar energy signature. Everyone stop. The group halted immediately, battle-ready in an instant. What is it? Erza demanded, sword already in hand. Celestial energy, Naruto explained, focusing on the sensation. A lot of it, being drained about half a mile ahead. And something else, a gate is forming. A gate to the spirit world? Lucy asked, her keys glowing faintly in response to the disturbance. No, Naruto's expression darkened. Something worse. A gate to the void. Without waiting for discussion, the group broke into a run through the forest, following Naruto's lead. As they crested a hill, they saw it, a clearing where dozens of cultists surrounded a swirling vortex of dark energy shot through with golden celestial light. Captured townspeople lay unconscious around the perimeter, thin streams of golden energy being pulled from their bodies into the vortex. They're using humans as conduits, Naruto growled, rage building inside him. Forcing celestial energy through them to stabilize the gate. We need to free those people, Erza stated, already requipping into her heaven's will armor. And destroy that gate, Naruto added. If it fully forms, something will come through that none of us wants to meet. Natsu punched his fists together, flames erupting around him. Then what are we waiting for? Gray had already stripped his shirt off, ice forming around his hands. For once, I agree with Flame Brain. Let's crash their party. Naruto looked at each of them, Natsu's eager grin, Gray's cool determination, Lucy's resolved stance with keys ready, Erza's disciplined focus, and Mirajane's kind eyes now hardened with protective fury. For the first time since becoming Spirit King, he felt like part of a team again. Alright, fairy tale, he grinned, golden energy beginning to swirl around him. Let's show these cultists why it's a bad idea to mess with spirits, or their friends. They erupted from the tree line in perfect synchronization, a coordinated attack that spoke to years of working together, and somehow, Naruto fit right into their rhythm. Natsu and Gray struck first, fire and ice creating chaotic conditions that scattered the unprepared cultists. Erza launched a barrage of swords that pinned several cultists to the ground by their robes. Lucy summoned Taurus, the bull spirit clearing a path to the captured townspeople with mighty sweeps of his axe. Mirajane transformed into her Satan soul, dark wings spreading as she launched into the air, raining dark energy onto cultists attempting to maintain the gate ritual. The precision of her attacks impressed Naruto, even in demonic form, she carefully avoided harming innocents. Naruto himself headed straight for the swirling vortex, sensing it was moments away from stabilizing. 3 cultists moved to intercept him, hands weaving complex spells. Void consumption. Dark tendrils shot toward him, but Naruto was prepared this time. He flashed through hand signs, drawing on his shinobi training merged with celestial power. Celestial clone jutsu. Golden duplicates of himself appeared, intercepting the tendrils while the real Naruto continued toward the gate. The cultists' confusion was evident, they'd never faced an opponent who could multiply himself. As he neared the vortex, Naruto felt the wrongness of it, a tear in reality that shouldn't exist. Beyond it, he sensed a presence, ancient and hungry, reaching toward the opening with desperate intent. Thanatos, he muttered, recognizing the energy signature from the Spirit King's memories. The gate pulsed, widening slightly, and for an instant, Naruto saw through to the other side, a realm of swirling darkness where a massive figure composed of shadows and stars struggled against incorporeal chains. Red eyes fixed on Naruto through the portal, recognition and hatred burning in their depths. The usurper, a voice hissed directly into Naruto's mind. The human who wears my crown. Your crown. Naruto replied aloud, gathering celestial energy between his palms. Pretty sure you forfeited that when you tried to eat your fellow spirits. The shadowy figure seemed to grow, pushing against the boundaries of the gate. I am the rightful king. The old fool was weak, preserving balance when we could rule all realms. And you, a mere human, dare to take what should have been mine. Yeah, Naruto focused the swirling energy in his hands. I've heard this speech from better villains than you. Rasengan. He slammed the spiraling sphere of chakra and celestial energy into the center of the vortex. The gate shuddered, reality warping around the point of impact. Through the distortion, Thanatos roared in fury. You cannot stop what comes, usurper. My followers grow stronger with every drop of celestial energy they harvest. Soon, all gates will fall, and I will consume your world as I should have eons ago. The vortex began to collapse in on itself, the connection weakening. Naruto pressed his advantage, pouring more power into his attack. Not while I'm king, he growled, feeling the crown's power responding to his determination. Not while I protect the spirits. With a final surge of energy, the gate imploded, collapsing with a thunderous crack that sent Naruto flying backward. He landed hard, rolling to absorb the impact, and came up in a defensive stance, ready for a counterattack. But the cultists were scattering, their ritual disrupted. Those who weren't fleeing were already engaged with the fairy tale mages. Erza cut down 3 with a single sweep of her blade, while Natsu's roaring flames drove another group into Gray's ice prison. Lucy and her spirits freed the captured townspeople, moving them to safety at the edge of the clearing. Mirajane landed beside Naruto, her Satan soul receding as she reached out a hand to steady him. Are you alright? That was an incredible amount of power you used. I'm good, Naruto assured her, though he felt the strain of channeling so much celestial energy outside his realm. Just need to catch my breath. The gate is closed, Erza approached, her armor scorched but her stance unwavering. But I heard voices. Did something communicate with you? Naruto nodded grimly. Thanatos himself. This was just a test, they're building larger gates. Elsewhere, harvesting energy from multiple sources. Did you learn where? Gray asked, joining them with Natsu and Lucy. No, but, Naruto stopped, a chill running down his spine as he sensed something wrong. Very wrong. Everyone down. They dropped just as a wave of dark energy swept over them, emanating from the center of the clearing where the gate had been. Where nothing should remain, a small tear in reality persisted, a pinprick of void that was steadily, impossibly, growing larger. But you destroyed it. Lucy exclaimed. I damaged it, Naruto corrected, rising slowly. But something's keeping it open from the other side. Thanatos is stronger than I expected. The tear expanded, and from it emerged a single figure, not the massive shadow Naruto had glimpsed, but a tall, elegant man with skin like obsidian and eyes that burned red against the darkness. He wore armor that seemed made of the night sky itself, stars gleaming against the black metal. A projection, Naruto realized aloud. He's not fully here. Indeed, usurper, the figure spoke, voice resonating with power that made the air itself vibrate. Merely a fraction of my essence, but enough to deliver a message. Lord Thanatos, Lok materialized beside Lucy, his expression a mixture of fear and defiance. You were banished for eternity. The figure's gaze shifted to Loke, a cruel smile playing at his lips. Leo the lion. Still serving humans like a pet. How the mighty Zodiac has fallen. Enough, Naruto stepped forward, allowing his full celestial aura to manifest. Say your piece and crawl back to your void, Thanatos. Your cultists failed today, and they'll continue to fail. Will they? Thanatos seemed amused. My faithful serve me across 50 locations in this world alone. Even now, they harvest enough celestial energy to strengthen my bonds to this realm. The old king knew what was coming. Why do you think he so desperately sought a successor? The words hit Naruto like a physical blow. The previous Spirit King had never fully explained the urgency of his choice, only that Naruto's unique blend of human compassion and immense power was needed. He knew you were trying to return, Naruto said, understanding dawning. He knew I would succeed, Thanatos corrected. The boundaries weaken with each passing cycle. Your appointment was his final, futile gesture, placing a guard dog at a crumbling gate. Erza stepped forward, sword pointed at the projection. Fairy Tail has stopped threats to our world before. You will be no different. Thanatos barely spared her a glance. Humans. Always so confident in their insignificance. His gaze returned to Naruto. You feel it, don't you, usurper? The strain on your new powers. The spirit world cracking at its foundations. The old king chose poorly, you lack the knowledge to maintain what is already breaking. Maybe, Naruto admitted, surprising his companions. But here's what the old king knew that you don't, Thanatos. I've never needed to know everything to win. I just need to know who to trust and when to fight. He flashed through hand signs, chakra building around him. And right now, I'm standing with Fairy Tail, the strongest guild in this world, while you're hiding in the void sending projections to do your talking. So tell me, which one of us sounds like the real king? Fury twisted Thanatos's elegant features. Your arrogance will be your undoing, human king. When next we meet, I will consume your essence and take what is rightfully mine. Looking forward to it, Naruto replied with a challenging grin. Shadow Clone Jutsu, Celestial Barrage. Dozens of Naruto clones appeared, each forming a Rasengan crackling with golden energy. They launched themselves at the projection from all directions, their combined attacks causing reality to warp around Thanatos's form. The projection wavered, its connection weakening, but Thanatos's voice echoed one final time, the harvest continues, usurper. When the stars go dark, I will return in truth. With that, the projection collapsed in on itself, the tiny tear in reality sealing with a sound like shattering glass. The clones dissipated, leaving Naruto standing alone in the center of the clearing, breathing heavily from the exertion. For a moment, silence hung over the battlefield. Then Natsu whistled low. So, we're fighting an evil spirit king who wants to eat the stars. Awesome. I'm all fired up now. Despite the gravity of the situation, Naruto found himself laughing. You remind me of me when I was younger. Always excited for the next big fight. This is no laughing matter, Erza said, though her tone lacked real reprimand. If what Thanatos said is true, we're facing a coordinated attack across Fiori. Not just Fiori, Loke added grimly. If they're operating in 50 locations, they must be spread across multiple kingdoms. Lucy clutched her keys protectively. We need to alert the other guilds, coordinate a response. And we need to find their main operation, Gray added. These smaller sites are just feeding the larger goal. Mirajane, who had been examining one of the unconscious cultists, looked up. This one has a map. It shows several locations marked with strange symbols, possibly their harvest sites. Naruto joined her, crouching to examine the markings. These aren't just random sites. They form a pattern, a massive magic circle spanning the continent. A summoning circle? Erza suggested, looking over his shoulder. More like a gateway, Naruto corrected. They're creating anchor points to tear open a permanent passage between realms. He stood, decision made. We need to return to Fairy Tail immediately. If we're going to stop this, we'll need everyone working together. As they gathered the unconscious townspeople and secured the few cultists who hadn't escaped, Naruto felt the weight of his crown more heavily than ever. Thanatos' words echoed in his mind. Had the old king merely been postponing the inevitable? Was Naruto truly equipped to handle a threat that had been building for eons? Mirajane must have sensed his doubt, because she placed a gentle hand on his arm as they began the trek back to Magnolia. You're not alone in this fight, she said simply. Whatever comes, Fairy Tail stands with you. The words eased something tight in Naruto's chest. No, he wasn't alone. He had allies in this world, brave, powerful, and loyal. And back in the spirit world, he had spirits who depended on him, who had accepted him as their king despite his human origins. As they crested the hill overlooking Magnolia, the setting sun bathing the town in golden light, Naruto felt a renewed determination. Thanatos might have been planning his return for centuries, but he hadn't counted on facing a ninja who never gave up, especially one with friends at his side. Ready to save two worlds, he asked the Fairy Tail mages walking beside him. Natsu grinned wildly. I'm all fired up. Gray smirked. As if we'd let some void demon destroy our guild. Lucy held up her keys, which glinted in the sunset. My spirits are counting on us. Erza nodded firmly. Fairy Tail doesn't back down from a challenge. And Mirajane smiled, her eyes reflecting the dying sunlight. Together, there's nothing we can't overcome. In that moment, with the town of Magnolia spread before them and new allies at his side, Naruto felt something he hadn't experienced since becoming Spirit King. He felt at home. The battle against Thanatos had only just begun, but for the first time since accepting the cosmic crown, Naruto truly believed he could win. Chapter 2, Celestial Bonds. Dawn broke over Magnolia as Naruto stood on the roof of Fairy Tail's guild hall, watching the sky shift from inky darkness to pale gold. He'd spent most of the night in meditation, reaching out with his senses to track the celestial disturbances across Earthland. Couldn't sleep. Naruto turned to find Mirajane climbing onto the roof, two steaming mugs in her hands. Her usual elegant dress was replaced by simple pants and a sweater, her white hair loosely framing her face. Spirit Kings don't really need sleep, Naruto said, accepting the offered mug. But honestly, I just like watching the sunrise. Reminds me I'm not in the spirit world. He took a sip and his eyes widened. This is amazing. What is it? Just hot chocolate with cinnamon, Mirajane smiled, settling beside him. You act like you've never had it before. I haven't, Naruto admitted. The spirit world doesn't have chocolate. Or ramen. Seriously lacking in the food department. Mirajane laughed softly, the sound warming something in Naruto's chest. Is that why you really came to Earthland? A ramen craving? Busted, he grinned. Cosmic threats are just my excuse. They fell into comfortable silence, watching the town come to life below. After returning from the forest yesterday, they'd shared their findings with Master Makarov and the rest of the guild. The news of Thanatos and his cult had been met with typical fairy tale determination, immediate plans for action rather than fear. The others will be here soon, Mirajane said eventually. Masters called in everyone for the mission briefings. Naruto nodded. Good. We need to move quickly. I sensed 3 more celestial disturbances last night. Whatever Thanatos is planning, it's accelerating. You can feel them? From here. Part of the job, Naruto said, tapping his chest. Connected to all celestial energy across realms. Like having thousands of alarm bells going off at once. Mirajane studied him, her blue eyes piercing. That sounds exhausting. You get used to it, he shrugged, though the sympathy in her gaze made him add, but yeah, it's a lot sometimes. Back in my world, I was connected to nature energy as a sage, but this is bigger. Is that why you didn't tell everyone what you really are? The pressure of carrying that responsibility? Naruto looked at her in surprise. You knew. I suspected, she smiled gently. My Satan soul gives me sensitivity to other powers. You shine too brightly to be just another spirit. And you didn't say anything? Everyone has secrets they keep until they're ready to share, Mirajane said simply. Even kings. Before Naruto could respond, the roof access door burst open and Natsu tumbled out, followed by a flying blue cat. Found you, he announced triumphantly. Gramps says everyone's waiting downstairs. Time to kick some void cult butt. Aye sir. Happy agreed, floating beside him. Lucy's complaining that her beauty sleep was interrupted. Naruto drained his hot chocolate and stood, offering Mirajane a hand up. Duty calls. She took his hand, her fingers warm against his. Just another day at Fairy Tale. The guild hall buzzed with energy as teams gathered around Makarov, who stood on the bar counter with a large map spread before him. Our friends from other guilds have confirmed cult activity in each of these locations, the old master was saying, pointing to red marks across the map. Based on the information from our captured cultists and Naruto's sensing abilities, we believe these form a massive ritual circle. 24 points, Erza noted, studying the pattern. Each corresponding to an hour of the day. And each harvesting celestial energy from different sources, Lucy added. Celestial mages, lacrima stores, even the ambient magic from certain areas. Gray leaned against a pillar, arms crossed. So what's the plan? We can't hit all these locations at once. We don't need to, Naruto stepped forward. They're feeding energy to 7 main focal points, here, here, and here. He pointed to locations that formed a smaller inner circle on the map. Those are the actual gates they're trying to create. The outer circle just feeds power to them. Then we strike at the focal points, Erza declared. Cut off their power source. Makarov nodded. Precisely. I've already dispatched teams to each location, with our strongest members leading them. He turned to Naruto. Which leaves the question of where you'll be most effective. All eyes turned to Naruto, who studied the map intently. This one, he pointed to a mark in a mountain range north of Magnolia. It's the strongest concentration I've sensed, and closest to completion. If Thanatos is directing this personally, that's where he'll focus. Then that's where we'll go, Makarov decided. Erza, Natsu, Gray, Lucy, Mirajane, you'll accompany Naruto. This may be our most dangerous target, so be prepared for anything. What about me, Gramps? A muscular man with spiky white hair and a scar over one eye pushed forward. Elfman, you'll join Team Shadow Gear at the western focal point, Makarov directed. Gajeel and Levi will need your strength. As the teams received their assignments, Erza approached Naruto with a determined expression. Before we leave, we should train together. If we're facing Thanatos' strongest forces, we need to understand each other's capabilities. Naruto nodded. Good call. I've got some moves that might surprise you. Ooh, training fight. Natsu's eyes lit up. I wanna see what the Spirit King can do. You'll get your chance, Flame Brain, Gray smirked. If you can keep up. Lucy sighed. And there they go again. Mirajane smiled at Naruto. Welcome to Fairy Tale. The training ground behind the guild was a wide, flat area scarred from countless magical battles. The team gathered in a loose circle as Naruto stepped into the center. Alright, he rolled his shoulders. Let's see what we're working with. Who's first? Me. Natsu jumped forward, flames already dancing around his fists. I wanna fight the Spirit King. Just sparring, Natsu, Lucy cautioned. We need everyone in one piece for the mission. Natsu grinned. No promises. Fire Dragon's iron fist. He launched himself at Naruto, flaming fist extended. To everyone's surprise, Naruto didn't dodge, he caught the punch bare-handed, flames licking harmlessly around his fingers. Not bad, Naruto grinned. But fire doesn't work too well on me. Spirit Kings are kind of resistant to elemental magic. Then how about this? Natsu inhaled deeply. Fire dragons roar. A torrent of flames erupted toward Naruto, who flickered out of existence and reappeared behind Natsu. Lesson 1, Naruto said, tapping Natsu's shoulder. Spirit Star Step. We can move through the celestial realm to cover short distances instantly. Whoa! Natsu spun around. That's not teleportation magic. You actually disappeared for a second. Because I technically wasn't here, Naruto explained. I stepped through my realm and back. Gray whistled. Handy trick. My turn, Erza stepped forward, equipping into her flight armor for speed. Let's test your reflexes. What followed was a blur of movement as Erza's lightning-fast attacks met Naruto's equally quick defenses. He blocked her strikes with practiced ease, his movements fluid and precise. You fight like a swordsman, Erza noted, increasing her pace. Trained with kunai and shuriken most of my life, Naruto replied, ducking under a slash and countering with a palm strike that Erza barely avoided. But I was always better with this, shadow clone jutsu. 3 identical Narutos appeared, each engaging Erza from different angles. She equipped dual swords, her eyes widening at the perfect synchronization of the clones. These aren't illusions, she realized, blocking simultaneous strikes. They're solid. Solid and capable of independent thought, Naruto confirmed as his clones pressed their advantage. Each one has a portion of my power. Gray didn't wait for an invitation, joining the fray with ice lances that targeted the clones. Ice make, lance. The icy projectiles passed through one clone, who simply separated his body around the attack, another spirit technique that left the fairy tale mages stunned. Partial physicality, Naruto explained. Spirits can choose what affects their bodies. My turn. Lucy called, pulling out a golden key. Open, Gate of the Lion, Leo. Loke appeared in a flash of light, adjusting his glasses with a smile. Ready to spar with the king, Lucy? Show them what celestial spirits can do, she encouraged. Loke charged his fists with golden light and joined the melee, exchanging rapid blows with Naruto that illuminated the training ground. Their movements had an otherworldly quality, almost dancing as they anticipated each other's techniques. You've gotten faster, Leo, Naruto commented, blocking a Regulus-enhanced punch. Had to keep up with you, my king, Loke replied with a grin. Mirajane watched from the sideline, analyzing the fight. When Gray created an ice floor to trap Naruto's footing, she decided to join in, transforming into her Satan soul with a flash of dark energy. Mind if I cut in? She asked, wings spreading as she took to the air. The more the merrier. Naruto called, genuinely enjoying himself for the first time in months. What had started as a sparring match evolved into something more complex, a choreography of powers as the team learned to work around and with Naruto's abilities. He showed them how his celestial energy could enhance their own magic, temporarily boosting Natsu's flames to burn blue and amplifying Gray's ice to create structures of impossible delicacy. Your magic feels different with his energy, Gray noted to Erza as her sword glowed with starlight. It's like fighting alongside 10 people at once, she agreed, watching Naruto create and disperse clones to match different fighting styles. After nearly an hour, they paused to catch their breath. Naruto hadn't even broken a sweat, though he was clearly holding back his true power. You're strong, Erza acknowledged. Stronger than you're showing us. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Well, going all out would probably destroy the training ground. Spirit King power isn't exactly subtle. Show us something, Natsu urged. Something big. Naruto considered, then nodded. Alright, one technique. Stand back. The team created distance as Naruto closed his eyes, golden energy beginning to swirl around him. His whisker marks deepened, and when he opened his eyes, they had transformed into the concentric circles they'd glimpsed during the forest battle. Star Sage Mode, he said, his voice resonating with power. Combines my shinobi sage techniques with celestial energy. He held out his hand, and the air above his palm distorted as he seemingly pulled a star from the sky, a miniature sun that spun and pulsed with incredible energy. Stellar Rasengan, Naruto said, the swirling orb growing until it was the size of a beach ball. This contains enough energy to level a mountain. Even from a distance, they could feel the heat and pressure radiating from the technique. Natsu's eyes were wide with excitement, while Lucy took an instinctive step back. That's incredible, Gray murmured. And dangerous, Erza added, her expression calculating. If our enemies can harvest celestial energy, could they achieve similar effects? Not without a direct connection to the spirit world, Naruto explained, allowing the technique to dissipate safely. Which is what Thanatos is trying to create. If he succeeds, then we won't let him succeed, Mirajane said firmly, her Satan soul receding to reveal her determined expression. Naruto let Star Sage Mode fade, returning to his normal appearance. There's one more thing you should know before we head out. I can share my celestial energy with others temporarily, like a power boost. Might come in handy if things get rough. How does that work? Lucy asked. Physical contact, Naruto explained. I channel energy directly to you. It's not permanent, but it can enhance your natural abilities for a short time. Useful, Erza nodded. We should rest and prepare. We leave for the mountains at noon. As the team dispersed to gather supplies, Erza lingered, studying Naruto with an intensity that reminded him of Sakura when she suspected he was hiding an injury. You held back significantly, she stated rather than asked. So did you, Naruto countered with a knowing smile. The corner of Erza's mouth twitched. True. I have armors I didn't reveal. Saving the good stuff for the real fight. Smart. They began walking back toward the guild together, a companionable silence between them until Erza spoke again. You fight like someone who's known war, she observed. Not just battles, but true war. Naruto's expression sobered. Yeah. The fourth great ninja war. My world's version of an apocalypse. You mentioned sacrifice, Erza said carefully. When you explained how you became Spirit King. I died, Naruto stated simply, surprising himself with how easily the words came. Or I should have used everything I had to seal away a goddess who would have destroyed reality. Next thing I knew, I was in the spirit world with the old king telling me I was his successor. Erza was quiet for a moment. I understand sacrifice. After the Tower of Heaven, after Jalal, there are prices we pay to protect what matters. Something in her tone made Naruto look at her more closely. Behind the armor, both literal and figurative, he recognized a familiar pain. You lost people, he said softly. Many, she acknowledged. As have you, I suspect. Naruto nodded. Too many. My parents died the day I was born, protecting our village. My mentor when I was 16. Friends in the war. And yet you smile, Erza noted. You joke with Natsu and share hot chocolate with Mirajane on rooftops. Naruto raised an eyebrow at her observation skills but didn't comment on it. What else can we do? Carry their memories, fight for what they believed in, and find moments of joy where we can. Otherwise, what's the point of surviving? Erza's expression softened, a rare vulnerability showing through. Fairy tale taught me the same. After everything I endured as a child, I never expected to find family again. Family, Naruto repeated, the word still carrying weight for the orphan he'd been. Yeah, your guild reminds me of that. The bonds that matter more than blood. They reached the guild doors, pausing before rejoining the others. Thank you, Erza said unexpectedly. For what? For being honest. About your power, your past. She met his eyes directly. I misjudged you initially. I thought perhaps you were another powerful being using humans for your own ends. I've encountered too many of those. I was human before I was anything else, Naruto said. That doesn't change, even with a cosmic crown. Erza nodded once, decided. Then I'm glad you're fighting alongside us, Naruto Uzumaki. She extended her hand, and Naruto grasped it firmly, feeling a warrior's respect in her grip that meant more than words could express. By noon, the team had assembled at Magnolia's northern gate, packed for the mountain journey ahead. According to their intelligence, the cult's focal point was located in an abandoned mine 3 days' travel into the treacherous range. 3 days gives them too much time to advance their plans, Erza frowned, studying the map. Maybe not, Naruto said thoughtfully. Loke, you still here? The spirit materialized beside Lucy. Always ready to assist, my king. Can you take a message to the spirit world? I need something from the royal vault. Loke bowed. Of course. What shall I tell them? Tell Ares to bring the stellar keys. The small ones, not the gate keys. Stellar keys? Lucy perked up, her interest in celestial objects piqued. I've never heard of those. They're not for contracting spirits, Naruto explained. They're for traveling. Part of the Spirit King's personal collection. Loke vanished to deliver the message, returning minutes later with Ares, who timidly approached Naruto with a small velvet box. Here you go, my king, she stammered, bowing deeply. I'm sorry if I took too long. Perfect timing, Ares, Naruto smiled, taking the box. And stop apologizing. You're doing great. The shy spirit blushed at the praise before disappearing back to the spirit world. Naruto opened the box to reveal 6 small golden keys, each topped with a different constellation pattern. These allow limited celestial travel for non-spirits, he explained, offering one to each team member. They'll get us to the mountains instantly, though they're one use only. Incredible, Lucy whispered, examining her key with professional interest. The craftsmanship is amazing. I didn't know such things existed, Loke admitted. The previous king must have kept them secret. For good reason, Naruto said. In the wrong hands, they could allow direct access to the spirit world without contracts or gates. But we need speed more than secrecy right now. Erza accepted her key decisively. How do we use them? Focus your magic into the key while thinking of our destination, Naruto instructed. I'll guide the transfer since I'm the anchor point. Everyone stand close together. The team formed a tight circle, keys held out before them. Naruto placed his hands on Erza and Mirajane's shoulders, completing the connection. Channel your magic now, he directed. And hang on, first celestial travel can be disorienting. The keys began to glow, responding to the mage's energy. The air around them shimmered, stars becoming visible even in daylight as reality thinned. Star path, open. Naruto commanded. The world dissolved into streams of light as they were pulled through the boundary between realms. For a brief, breathtaking moment, they existed in the space between worlds, a cosmos of endless stars and celestial bodies, beautiful and terrifying in its vastness. Then reality reasserted itself, and they were standing on a rocky mountain outcropping, the peaks rising around them and Magnolia nowhere in sight. Holy crap! Natsu staggered, face turning green. That was worse than a train. Happy patted his back sympathetically. Poor Natsu's motion sickness works between dimensions too. That was. Gray struggled for words, looking around in amazement. We just traveled 3 days' journey in seconds. Lucy was staring at her key, which had turned from gold to dull brass, its magic spent. That was incredible. We were actually in the celestial realm for a moment, weren't we? The boundary, Naruto corrected. Not quite my world, not quite yours. A dangerous place to linger without protection. Erza was already orienting herself, checking landmarks against their map. We're exactly where we need to be. The mine entrance should be just over that ridge. Mirajane stepped to the edge of the outcropping, gazing into the valley below. Look, she pointed. There's activity down there. They joined her, crouching to remain unseen. Below, dark-robed figures moved between cave entrances and hastily constructed buildings. Even from a distance, the silver masks of the cult members were unmistakable. At least 50 of them, Gray estimated. And they've set up barriers, Erza noted, pointing to shimmering fields of energy surrounding the compound. Magical detection and defense. Naruto focused his senses, reaching out to feel the celestial energies. What he found made his blood run cold. They have captives, he said grimly. Celestial mages, from the feel of it. And they're harvesting them continuously. Lucy gasped. That's barbaric. We need to save them immediately. We need a plan first, Erza countered. Rushing in will only endanger the captives further. I could scout ahead, Happy offered. They won't notice a cat. Naruto shook his head. Their barriers might detect even you, Happy. But I have another way. He formed a hand sign. Transform. With a puff of smoke, Naruto was replaced by an exact replica of one of the cultists they'd captured in Magnolia, complete with silver mask and dark robes. Shadow clone jutsu, he added, creating 2 similarly disguised clones. We'll infiltrate, gather intelligence, and find the captives. The rest of you stay here and prepare for extraction. We'll need to move fast once we have the layout. I don't like splitting up, Erza frowned. Me neither, Natsu agreed. I say we just charge in and bust some heads. Patience, Flame Brain, Gray said. For once, I think the stealthy approach makes sense. Mirajane stepped forward. I should go too. My Satan soul can sense magical signatures that might help locate the captives faster. Naruto considered her offer. Having backup would be valuable, especially someone who could blend in. Can you transform to look like one of them? Mirajane smiled, her body shimmering as she effortlessly took on the appearance of a female cultist they'd encountered in Magnolia. Takeover magic has its advantages. Impressive, Naruto nodded. Alright, Mira with me. The rest of you, be ready to move on my signal. If anything goes wrong, Lucy can have Loke contact me directly through our celestial connection. With the plan set, Naruto and Mirajane made their way down the mountainside, approaching the compound from different angles with Naruto's clones creating additional distractions. As they neared the barrier, Naruto whispered instructions. Let me handle the barrier. When we're inside, act cold and reverent, these cult types are always obsessed with formality. Mirajane nodded beneath her mask. I've infiltrated dark guilds before. Just follow my lead if we're questioned. They approached the main entrance where 2 cultists stood guard. Naruto adjusted his posture to match the stiff formality they'd observed in their previous encounters. Void consumes light, he intoned, remembering the greeting they'd heard cultists use. And darkness prevails, the guard responded, examining them. Returning from patrol. Scouting the eastern ridge, Naruto replied. Lord Thanatos demands vigilance. The mention of their leader seemed to satisfy the guard. Who stepped aside? The harvest proceeds ahead of schedule. Report to Overseer Kane for reassignment. They passed through the barrier, Naruto subtly manipulating his celestial energy to mask their true signatures. Inside the compound, the air felt heavy with stolen power, making his skin crawl with wrongness. This way, Mirajane murmured, indicating a larger structure nestled against the mountainside. That's where the magical energy is strongest. They moved through the compound, careful to maintain their disguises as they observed the operation. Cultists worked in organized shifts, moving between buildings with purpose. Some carried crystals similar to the one they'd seen in Magnolia, storage vessels for harvested celestial energy. Inside the main building, they discovered a horrifying sight. A dozen mages hung suspended in magical circles, golden energy being systematically drained from their bodies into waiting receptacles. The victims appeared conscious but unable to move, their eyes wide with pain and fear. "Monster," Mirajane whispered, her disguise flickering momentarily as rage threatened her control. Naruto placed a warning hand on her arm, though he shared her fury. "Stay focused. We need to find the focal point." They descended deeper into the mine, following the flow of harvested energy. The tunnels opened into a massive cavern where cultists had constructed an elaborate magical array. At its center stood a stone altar bearing a familiar dark crystal, much larger than the ones they'd seen before. "That's it," Naruto whispered. "The gate anchor. They're feeding it constantly to thin the boundary." A tall figure stood before the altar, hands raised as he conducted the flow of energy. Unlike the other cultists, his mask was crafted from what appeared to be black celestial crystal, and his robes bore golden runes that glowed with stolen power. "High Priest Moros," a nearby cultist murmured reverently. "Lord Thanatos speaks through him now." As if hearing his name, the High Priest turned, his masked face scanning the assembled cultists until it seemed to fix directly on Naruto and Mirajane. "Interesting," a dual-layered voice emerged from behind the mask, the priest's voice overlaid with deeper, resonant tones. "We have visitors who shine with unfamiliar light." Naruto tensed, preparing to fight, but the high priest merely beckoned them forward. "Approach, travelers. Let us look upon you properly." With no option but to comply without breaking cover, they stepped forward. Naruto kept his senses alert, ready to grab Mirajane and flee if necessary. "Remove your masks," the high priest commanded. "Let Lord Thanatos see who seeks to disrupt his great work." Whispers spread through the assembled cultists, attention focusing on them. Naruto made a split-second decision, their cover was blown, but they could still gather information. "If your lord can see through realms, he already knows who I am," Naruto challenged, removing his mask to reveal his true face. Gasps echoed through the chamber as cultists recognized him from Magnolia. Mirajane followed suit, dropping her disguise entirely to reveal her true appearance. The usurper king, the high priest, or rather, Thanatos speaking through him, seemed amused rather than concerned. "And the demon soul mage of fairy tale. What an interesting pair you make." "This ends now, Thanatos," Naruto stated, dropping his transformation entirely to reveal his celestial aura. "Release your captives and close this gate, or I'll close it for you." Laughter echoed through the cavern, the sound distorted and unnatural. "You misunderstand your position, false king. You haven't interrupted our ritual, you've completed it." Too late, Naruto sensed the trap. The crystal at the altar pulsed, responding to his celestial energy. Dark tendrils shot from the ground, wrapping around his ankles before he could dodge. "Your energy signature is the final key," Thanatos explained through his puppet. "The Spirit King's power, the very essence I've sought to complete my return." "Naruto." Mirajane transformed instantly into her Satan soul, dark wings erupting from her back as she lunged to help him. More tendrils caught her mid-flight, wrapping around her transformed body and sending pulses of dark energy through her that disrupted her takeover magic. "The demon soul is an unexpected bonus," Thanatos's voice purred. "Such delicious darkness to harvest." Naruto struggled against the binding energy, feeling it drawing on his power. This was exactly what Thanatos wanted, access to the Spirit King's essence to strengthen his gate. "Signal the others," he told Mirajane through gritted teeth. "Now." Despite the pain, Mirajane managed to channel her magic upward, sending a burst of dark energy through the cavern roof that exploded into the sky, a flare that couldn't be missed. "Your friends cannot help you," Thanatos mocked. "By the time they arrive, the first true gate will be open, and a portion of my true power will walk this realm again." The high priest approached Naruto, black crystal mask gleaming in the ethereal light. "Do you know why the old king chose you, human?" Not for your strength, but for your nature. Your energy, mixed with human and tailed beast chakra, creates a unique resonance that weakens the barriers between realms. You're lying, Naruto growled, still fighting against the draining tendrils. Am I? Why do you think the gates began failing only after you took the throne? The old king knew what was coming. He chose you not to stop me, but to inadvertently help me return. The word struck Naruto like physical blows. Could it be true? Had his very existence as Spirit King been accelerating the breakdown between worlds? Don't listen to him, Naruto. Mirajane called, still struggling against her own bonds. He's trying to break your spirit. The high priest turned toward her. The demon understands. Break the spirit, and the power flows more freely. He reached out, placing a cold hand on Naruto's chest. Now, give us what we need, false king. Open your heart to the void. Pain unlike anything Naruto had experienced lanced through his body as Thanatos began forcibly extracting his celestial essence. Golden light poured from him into the crystal altar, which grew darker and more massive with each passing second. Through the haze of agony, Naruto saw the altar crystal begin to crack, dark energy pouring out to form a humanoid shape. Thanatos was manifesting physically, not his full form, but enough to act directly in Earthland. Naruto! Mirajane cried, renewed determination in her voice as she witnessed his suffering. With a primal scream, she channeled her demon power into the tendrils holding her, corrupting them with her own darkness until they shattered. Free but weakened, she launched herself at the high priest, claws extended. Get away from him. Before she could reach him, the emerging form of Thanatos solidified enough to intercept her, catching her by the throat with a hand made of shadows and stars. Fascinating creature, Thanatos's true voice emerged from the partially formed body. Your soul has touched darkness willingly and returned. So rare and valuable. Let her go. Naruto roared, rage giving him strength to fight the draining effect. His eyes shifted to Star Sage mode, power surging despite the tendrils' attempt to contain him. The cavern shook as Naruto's power spiked. Cracks appeared in the ceiling, sending rays of sunlight piercing through the darkness. On the surface, the rest of the team had received Mirajane's signal and were engaging the cultists, the sounds of battle filtering down to them. Your friends are persistent, Thanatos noted, still holding Mirajane, who struggled despite her fading strength. But they cannot stop what has already begun. The manifesting form of Thanatos grew more solid, a tall figure with skin like the night sky, stars moving beneath his surface. His face remained incomplete, a void with burning red eyes that fixed on Naruto. Watch, usurper, as I take what should have been mine. Thanatos placed his free hand on Mirajane's forehead, darkness flowing from his touch as he began absorbing her demonic power. She screamed, the sound tearing through Naruto like a physical wound. Something snapped inside him, a barrier he'd been carefully maintaining since becoming Spirit King. His human rage and the cosmic power of his position merged in a sudden, explosive release. Enough! Naruto shouted, golden chakra erupting around him like flames. The tendrils disintegrated, unable to contain the sudden surge of power. Free from restraint, Naruto moved with impossible speed, appearing between Thanatos and Mirajane. His fist, charged with concentrated celestial energy, slammed into the shadow god's partially formed face. You don't touch my friends. Naruto growled, his voice layered with power that made the very air vibrate. The impact sent Thanatos staggering backward, his incomplete form destabilizing. Naruto caught Mirajane as she fell, cradling her against his chest as he faced their enemy. Mira, stay with me, he urged, channeling healing energy into her. Her eyes fluttered open, the demonic black receding to reveal her natural blue. I knew, you were holding back, in training, she managed with a weak smile. Just rest, Naruto said softly, before turning his attention back to Thanatos, who was already recovering. Impressive, the shadow god acknowledged. But futile. Even if you destroy this vessel, the gate remains. My full return is merely delayed, not prevented. The cavern shook more violently as explosions rocked the compound above. Naruto's enhanced senses detected Natsu's fire and Erza's blades cutting through the cultists' defenses. They were getting closer. We'll see about that. Naruto carefully set Mirajane down against a wall, then faced Thanatos fully. I'm done holding back. He formed a familiar cross-shaped hand sign. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. The cavern filled with dozens of Narutos, each glowing with celestial power. They launched themselves at Thanatos from all directions, forcing the shadow god to defend against multiple fronts. While his clones engaged, the real Naruto turned to the crystal altar, the true source of the gate. Celestial energy continued to flow into it, widening the tear between realms. He needed to disrupt it, but simple destruction might release all that energy at once, potentially killing everyone in the mine. Need a hand? Naruto turned to find Erza beside him, her heavens will armor gleaming in the chaotic light. Behind her, Natsu and Gray were engaging cultists while Lucy worked with Loke to free the captive mages. Perfect timing, Naruto nodded toward the altar. We need to stabilize that energy before we can destroy the crystal. Otherwise, boom. I have just the armor for energy containment. Erza equipped into her adamantine armor, massive shields forming on her arms. Direct the flow into my shields when you break the connection. I can hold it long enough for a controlled release. Naruto placed his hand on her shoulder. This will be intense. I'm going to share some of my power with you to reinforce your armor. Golden energy flowed from his touch into Erza's armor, the metal taking on a celestial sheen. She nodded, bracing herself before the altar. Now! Naruto shouted, driving a Rasengan directly into the flow of energy feeding the crystal. The connection shattered, celestial power rebounding wildly until Erza intercepted it with her enhanced shields. The energy crashed against her defense like a tidal wave, pushing her back several feet despite her incredible strength. Hold it steady. Naruto called, forming hand signs to create a celestial seal. I need 30 seconds to redirect this safely. While Erza contained the surging power, Naruto's clones continued their assault on Thanatos, whose partially manifested form was beginning to destabilize without the constant feed of energy from the altar. This changes nothing, the shadow god roared, lashing out with tendrils of darkness that dispelled clones on contact. My followers activate 6 other gates as we speak. Maybe, the real Naruto responded, completing his seal. But not this one. Celestial art, starfall redirection. He slammed his palm against the ground beneath the altar. Golden lines spread outward, forming a complex array that surrounded both Erza and the wild energy she contained. With a gesture, Naruto directed the power upward. Erza released her containment at precisely the right moment, the energy shooting through the cavern roof in a concentrated beam of golden light that pierced the sky like a reverse shooting star. What did you do? Erza asked, requipping back to her standard armor as the pressure subsided. Sent it home, Naruto explained. Back to the spirit world where it belongs. It'll strengthen the boundaries rather than weaken them. A howl of rage drew their attention back to Thanatos, whose form was rapidly losing cohesion. The shadow god fought furiously against the remaining clones, but without the gate's power sustaining him, his manifestation was failing. This isn't over, usurper. Thanatos snarled, his voice distorting as his form began to dissolve. What begins in 7 places cannot be stopped by disrupting one. Watch us, Natsu challenged, joining them after defeating the remaining cultists. Fairy tales stopping all of them. Thanatos fixed his burning gaze on Naruto one last time. The throne was never meant for a human. Your existence is the key to my return, remember that when the stars begin to fall. With those final words, the shadow god's form collapsed entirely, the dark energy dispersing until only the black crystal mask of the high priest remained, cracked and inert on the cavern floor. For a moment, silence filled the cavern. Then Natsu whooped in victory, flames shooting from his mouth in celebration. We kicked Shadow butt, he cheered. 1 down, 6 to go. Gray rolled his eyes but couldn't hide his own satisfied expression. Try not to burn the place down before we get the captives out, Flame Brain. Lucy approached with Loke, supporting one of the freed mages. We've stabilized the captives, but they need medical attention. That energy drain really hurt them. I've contacted the guild, Loke added. Wendy's on her way with a medical team. Naruto nodded, then turned to where he'd left Mirajane. To his relief, she was already standing, though she leaned against the wall for support. He moved to her side immediately. You should be resting, he admonished gently. I'll rest when everyone's safe, she replied with a weak but determined smile. Did we win? This round, Naruto confirmed, supporting her with an arm around her waist. But Thanatos is right about one thing, there are 6 more gates activating. And what he said about me? Mirajane placed a hand on his chest, looking directly into his eyes. Don't you dare believe him. Whatever the old king's reasons for choosing you, I saw how you fought to protect everyone. That's not the action of someone who weakens realms, it's someone who strengthens bonds between them. Her words eased something tight in Naruto's chest. Before he could respond, a sharp pain lanced through his head, bringing him to one knee. Naruto. Mirajane knelt beside him, concern etched on her face. What's wrong? Visions flashed through his mind, the spirit world in chaos, gates fluctuating wildly, spirits crying out in fear as the palace itself began to crack. The bond that connected him to his realm was sending desperate warnings. The spirit world, he gasped, the pain subsiding enough for him to speak. It's destabilizing. Without me there to maintain balance, and with Thanatos's followers still draining energy from the other sites. You need to go back, Erza stated, joining them with the others close behind. Naruto nodded grimly. I need to stabilize things from my side. But that leaves you without the Spirit King. Natsu interrupted. Big deal. We're Fairy Tail. We can handle these cult creeps while you do your Cosmic King stuff. Natsu's right, Gray agreed. We've got this covered. The guild's already engaging the other focal points. Lucy knelt beside him, her expression serious. The spirits are my friends too. If the spirit world is in danger, helping it is the priority. Naruto looked at each of them, these mages who'd welcomed him without hesitation, fought alongside him, and now were urging him to do his duty even if it meant leaving them to face Thanatos's cult alone. They reminded him so much of his friends back in Konoha that it ached. I'll send Loke with regular updates, Lucy promised. And when the spirit world is stable, you can come back to help finish this. Mirajane still hadn't released his hand, her grip tightening slightly. We'll be waiting, she said softly, something unspoken in her eyes. Naruto made his decision. I'll leave shadow clones, as many as I can maintain across realms. They won't have my full power, but they'll help. He stood, creating 3 clones that immediately took positions beside Erza, Natsu, and Gray. They'll fight with you and can relay messages directly to me. Cool. Natsu high-fived his assigned clone. I get my own Spirit King buddy. Despite the gravity of the situation, Naruto found himself smiling. I'll stabilize things as quickly as I can and return. Thanatos can't manifest his full form without all 7 gates active, so keeping even one closed buys us time. Erza clasped his forearm in a warrior's grip. We'll hold the line here. Do what you must, Spirit King. Just Naruto, he reminded her with a smile. Always just Naruto. As he prepared to return to the spirit world, Mirajane stepped forward one last time. Without hesitation, she embraced him tightly. Come back to us, she whispered against his ear. Not just to fight, come back to Fairy Tail. Naruto returned the embrace, surprised by how right it felt. I promise, he replied softly. Believe it. He stepped back, golden light already enveloping him as he opened the path between realms. The last thing he saw before the celestial transfer completed was Mirajane's smile and Erza's nod of respect, two women who'd somehow begun to anchor him to this world as strongly as his duty anchored him to the spirit world. The spirit palace was in chaos when Naruto arrived. Cracks ran through the crystal walls, and spirits rushed frantically through the corridors, trying to contain the damage. "My king." Virgo materialized beside him, bowing hastily. "Your return brings great relief. Punishment for our failure to maintain stability?" "Not now, Virgo," Naruto said, already striding toward the throne room. "Status report. How bad is it?" "3 minor gates have collapsed entirely," Virgo reported, keeping pace. "The zodiac gates are fluctuating wildly. Aquarius is particularly distressed, her connection to water magic users is severely disrupted." They entered the throne room to find the remaining members of the Zodiac Council gathered around the observation pool, which showed alarming patterns of darkness spreading across the celestial map. "He returns," Taurus announced, brandishing his axe. "Most excellent timing, my king. The boundaries weaken beyond our ability to repair them," Capricorn stated formally. "Your clones maintained basic functions but lacked the authority to implement emergency measures." Naruto approached the pool, placing his hands on its edge to better sense the damage. It was worse than he'd feared. The very fabric of the spirit world was stretching thin, particularly around the points corresponding to Thanatos' gates on Earthland. "I need to reinforce the core boundaries immediately," he decided. "Gemini, take my appearance and maintain court functions. Capricorn, organize repair teams for the minor gates. Aries, prepare the healing chambers for any spirits affected by the fluctuations." The spirits moved with renewed purpose, his confident commands bringing order to the chaos. Naruto made his way to the heart of the palace, the Star Chamber, where the previous kings had drawn their power directly from the cosmos. The chamber was a perfect sphere, its walls showing the unfiltered majesty of the celestial realm, not the anthropomorphized version most spirits and mages experienced, but the true, raw cosmic energy of creation. Here, at the center of everything, Naruto could access the full power of his position. He sat cross-legged in the center of the chamber, closing his eyes as he entered a meditative state. The connection came immediately, a rush of awareness that extended beyond the spirit world to the boundaries of reality itself. He could feel the 7 points where Thanatos' followers were creating gates, each one pulling at the fabric of the spirit world like hooks in delicate cloth. One point, the mountain focal point they'd just disrupted, was already healing, the boundary strengthening as the redirected energy reinforced it. But the other 6 were deteriorating rapidly. Drawing on his ninja training, Naruto created a mindscape where he could visualize the problem. The boundaries appeared as a golden web spanning infinite darkness, with 6 dark thorns piercing through at different points. Each thorn leaked darkness into the golden light, corrupting and weakening it. "I need to contain the spread before I can heal the punctures," Naruto murmured to himself. He extended his awareness along the web, channeling celestial energy to create barriers around each puncture point, not healing them yet, but preventing the damage from spreading further. It was delicate work, requiring precision he'd never needed as a ninja, where raw power had often been enough. Hours passed as Naruto painstakingly stabilized the boundaries. Sweat beaded on his brow from the effort, his physical body feeling the strain of manipulating cosmic forces. Finally, the last containment barrier snapped into place, and he allowed himself a moment's respite. Through his connection to his shadow clones, he received flashes of information from Earthland, Natsu and Gray engaging cultists at another focal point, Erza leading an assault on a third, his clones fighting alongside them with the limited portion of his power they could access. Fairy Tail was holding their own, but the battles were intense. A particular memory from Mirajane's clone caught his attention. She had fully mastered her Satan soul, Citri form, the enhanced demonic power allowing her to disrupt a ritual that would have claimed more celestial mage victims. The pride and concern he felt at seeing her push her limits surprised him with its intensity. "Focus," he reminded himself, returning to the task at hand. With the boundaries stabilized, he could now begin healing the actual tears. Drawing deeper on the star chamber's power, Naruto extended his awareness into the cosmos beyond the spirit world. Stars responded to his call, their energy flowing through him and into the damaged boundaries. The sensation was both exhilarating and terrifying. He was channeling forces that could create or destroy worlds. One by one, he sealed the tiers, each closure sending ripples of stability through the entire network. As he worked, Naruto became aware of a presence observing him, not Thanatos, but something older, something that had existed before the spirit world took its current form. "Who's there?" he asked without opening his eyes, maintaining his concentration on the healing process. "Merely watching," a voice responded, ancient and neither male nor female. "You work differently than your predecessors. More human in your approach. Is that a compliment or criticism?" Naruto asked, sealing another tear with a surge of star energy. "Neither. An observation." The presence moved closer, though it remained intangible. "The old king chose well. Your connection to human emotion gives you strength they lacked. And weakness Thanatos is trying to exploit," Naruto countered, remembering the Shadow God's claims. "Is it weakness to care for two realms instead of one?" the voice asked. "The spirits respond to your protection not because of your crown, but because of your heart. The mages of Earthland fight alongside you for the same reason." Naruto finally opened his eyes, the healing work complete enough to allow a brief interruption. Before him hovered a faint outline, a figure composed of starlight that shifted between forms too rapidly to identify. "You're the first," Naruto realized, recognizing the energy signature from the memories the old king had shared with him. The original Spirit King. The light flickered in what might have been a nod. "What remains of me? I have watched each king rise and fall, including Thanatos's banishment." "Then you know how to defeat him permanently," Naruto said, hope rising. "If I did, I would have done so myself," the first replied. "Thanatos was my mistake, my creation given too much autonomy, too much hunger. He cannot be destroyed, only contained." "I don't accept that," Naruto stated firmly. "There's always a way. In my world, we faced gods and demons everyone said were invincible. We found a way." The first seemed to study him. "Your human perspective is fascinating. You see boundaries as challenges rather than absolutes." "Because they are," Naruto insisted. "Thanatos keeps talking about returning to take what's his, but the throne was never his to begin with, was it? He was something else before he became a spirit." The light pulsed, surprise evident in its fluctuation. "You perceive more than expected." "Yes, Thanatos was different. Neither spirit nor god but something between. I gave him form, purpose, connection to the celestial realm. In return, he sought to consume it all. And now he's trying again, using cultists on Earthland to harvest celestial energy and weaken the boundaries," Naruto summarized. "But why now? What's changed?" The first's light dimmed slightly. "You have. Not by any fault or failure, but by your very nature. The spirit world has never had a king with a human soul before. It creates resonances, harmonies that Thanatos can exploit. The old king knew this risk when he chose you. Then why choose me at all?" Naruto demanded, frustration building. "If I'm making things worse just by existing, because only you can close the circle," the first interrupted. "Only someone who exists in both states, human and spirit, can repair what Thanatos seeks to break. The old king did not choose you despite the risk, he chose you because of it." The revelation struck Naruto silent. It wasn't that he was weakening the boundaries accidentally, it was that he was the only one who could strengthen them in a new way, if he could figure out how. "How do I do it?" he finally asked. "How do I close the circle?" The first's light began to fade. "That answer lies not in the stars but in the connections you've formed. Look to the bonds between worlds, not the boundaries." "Wait. Naruto called, but the ancient presence was already dissipating. I need more than riddles. You have what you need, the first's voice echoed as it vanished completely. Trust in what brought you here. Alone again in the star chamber, Naruto processed the cryptic advice. Bonds, not boundaries. Connections between worlds. His mind flashed to Lucy and her spirits, to Mirajane containing both human and demon souls, to Erza's ability to manifest different armors and weapons through pocket dimensions. Connections, he murmured. That's what Thanatos doesn't understand. He sees power as something to take, but real strength comes from what we share. With renewed purpose, Naruto returned to his healing work, but with a different approach. Instead of simply sealing the tears, he began weaving connections between them, creating a network that would strengthen rather than separate the boundaries between worlds. As he worked, memories from his clones continued to flow in. Fairy Tail was making progress, having disrupted 3 of the remaining 6 focal points. But the cultists were growing desperate, their attacks more reckless and dangerous. His friends were tiring, pushing themselves to their limits. One memory in particular caught his attention, Erza taking a blow meant for his clone, her armor shattering from the impact. Despite her injury, she had continued fighting, her determination undiminished. The clone had shared some of its limited celestial energy with her, healing the worst of the damage. Another showed Mirajane embracing her darkest Satan soul form yet to counter a particularly powerful cultist, the transformation so complete that for a moment, his clone had feared she might lose herself to the demonic power. But she had emerged victorious, her gentle soul reasserting control even through the fearsome exterior. These women, these fairy tale mages, were risking everything to help him defend the balance between worlds. Not because of duty or obligation, but because they cared, about their guild, their world, the spirits, and perhaps, about him. The realization sparked something in Naruto's understanding. The final piece clicked into place, what the first had meant about closing the circle. It's not about separating the worlds or maintaining rigid boundaries, Naruto said aloud. It's about creating harmony between them, a flow that strengthens both sides. With this insight guiding him, Naruto completed the healing process differently than any spirit king before him. Rather than reinforcing separation, he created channels for positive energy exchange, pathways that would allow celestial energy to flow naturally between worlds without being forcibly harvested or depleted. When he finally opened his eyes, the star chamber was glowing with renewed brilliance, the cosmic display around him more vivid than before. He could feel the spirit world stabilizing, the boundaries healing but also becoming more harmoniously integrated with Earthland. Naruto stood, his legs shaky from hours of meditation, and made his way back to the throne room. The zodiac spirits waited for him, their expressions hopeful. The crisis is contained, he announced. The boundaries are stabilizing, but in a new configuration, one that should be more resistant to Thanatos's methods. We feel the change, Capricorn acknowledged with a formal bow. The celestial currents flow more freely, yet with greater stability. Reports from all sectors indicate improvement, Virgo added. The minor gates are restabilizing, and spirits report easier connection to their contract holders. Naruto nodded, relieved but not yet satisfied. What about the remaining focal points on Earthland? What's the status of Fairy Tail's efforts? Locke stepped forward. They've disrupted 5 of the 7 gates now. Only 2 remain active, the strongest ones, located in remote areas with heavy cult presence. Then that's where I need to be, Naruto decided. The spirit world can maintain its new stability without my direct presence now that the framework is in place. My king, Ares spoke up timidly, the cultists at those locations are reportedly the most fanatical. They've been sacrificing celestial mages to accelerate the gate opening. I'm sorry to bring such terrible news. Anger flashed through Naruto at the thought of more innocent lives being lost to Thanatos's ambition. All the more reason for me to return immediately. Locke, you'll come with me. The rest of you, maintain the new energy channels and monitor the boundaries. As he prepared to return to Earthland, Naruto paused before the observation pool, studying the two remaining focal points. One was located in a desert region far to the south, the other in mountains to the north even more remote than their previous target. "Virgo, how long have I been working in the star chamber?" he asked suddenly. "Approximately 3 days, my king," she replied with a bow. 3 days? Naruto exclaimed. Time flows differently here, but that still, he focused on his clone connections, alarmed to realize how much time had passed on Earthland as well. "My friends have been fighting for 3 days straight without rest." "Fairy tale mages are notoriously stubborn," Locke commented with a smile that didn't quite mask his concern. "Lucy hasn't summoned me directly in over a day, which suggests she's conserving her magic for battle." Determination hardened Naruto's features. "Then we don't waste another minute. I'm going back, and this time, I'm ending Thanatos' threat permanently." Golden light surrounded him as he opened a path between worlds, his destination fixed on the northern focal point where he sensed his clones still battling alongside Erza and Mirajane. Whatever cryptic purpose the old king had seen in choosing a human successor, Naruto was now certain of one thing: his connections to both worlds weren't a weakness for Thanatos to exploit, but the very key to defeating him. The battlefield that greeted Naruto upon his return to Earthland looked like something from his war memories: scorched earth, magical craters, and exhausted mages still standing against overwhelming odds. His clone fought back-to-back with Erza, both showing signs of extended battle. Nearby, Mirajane and her Satan soul form protected several injured civilians while engaging cultists who pressed forward in waves. Naruto materialized in a flash of golden light that momentarily halted the conflict, all eyes turning to the new arrival. "The king returns," one cultist cried in alarm. "Alert the high priest." Without hesitation, Naruto moved to Erza's side, his clone dispelling to return its remaining energy to him along with its battle memories. "You're late," Erza commented, a ghost of a smile crossing her exhausted face despite the seriousness of her tone. Her armor was cracked in multiple places, and a gash across her cheek hadn't fully healed. "Sorry about that," Naruto replied, immediately channeling celestial energy to reinforce her depleted magic. "Time works differently in the spirit world. I came as soon as I could." The celestial energy rejuvenated her visibly, color returning to her face as her magic reserves replenished. "We've managed to disrupt 5 gates, but this one is heavily defended. They've brought in reinforcements from the failed sites." Naruto quickly assessed the battlefield. They were in a mountain valley surrounded by jagged peaks, a massive stone circle at its center where cultists maintained a swirling vortex of dark energy shot through with golden celestial light, nearly identical to what they'd seen in the first focal point, but far larger. "Where are the others?" he asked, noticing the absence of Natsu, Gray, and Lucy. "At the southern focal point with reinforcements from Blue Pegasus Guild," Erza explained. "Master split our forces when we realized we couldn't be in 2 places at once." Mirajane disengaged from her opponents and flew to their position, her Satan soul receding as she landed. Her usual elegant appearance was marred by exhaustion, dark circles under her eyes and her white hair tangled from battle. "Naruto," she breathed, relief evident in her voice. "You're really back." "I promised, didn't I?" he replied softly, channeling healing energy to her as well. "Sorry it took so long." "We knew you'd come," she assured him, straightening as his energy restored some of her strength. "But we're running out of time. They're about to complete the ritual. This gate is different, stronger somehow." Naruto turned his attention to the ritual circle, extending his senses to analyze the flow of energy. What he found confirmed his fears: this wasn't just another gateway attempt. This was the primary anchor, designed to pull Thanatos' full essence through once enough celestial energy had been harvested. "This is it," he told them grimly. "The main event. If this gate opens fully, Thanatos gains access to Earthland with his full power. Then we stop it," Erza stated simply, requipping into her heavens will armor despite her fatigue. "Whatever it takes." Together, Mirajane added, standing firm beside them. Naruto looked at these two women, warriors who'd fought without rest for days, protecting his interests in Earthland while he restored stability to the spirit world. Something warm bloomed in his chest, an emotion he hadn't allowed himself to acknowledge fully until this moment. "There's something you should know," he said quickly. "About Thanatos, about why the old king chose me. The boundaries between worlds are changing, becoming more connected rather than separated. That's why Thanatos is making his move now." "Is that bad?" Mirajane asked. "Not necessarily," Naruto explained. "But it means the old ways of containing him won't work. We need something new, a way to harmonize the energy between realms rather than dividing them." Erza nodded in understanding. "You've already begun this in the spirit world." "Yes, but it needs an anchor on both sides," Naruto continued. "Someone connected to both Earthland and the spirit world who can maintain the balance." "Like Lucy?" Mirajane suggested. "Her celestial magic, more than that," Naruto said, his eyes meeting hers. "Someone who understands duality, containing different energies in one soul. Like you with your takeover magic. Or Erza, who bridges dimensions with her requip space." Both women processed his words, understanding dawning in their expressions. "You need us," Erza stated, not a question but a realization. "To defeat Thanatos permanently, yes," Naruto confirmed. "Not just your power, but your unique connections to different realms of magic. Combined with my position as Spirit King, we might be able to create something Thanatos can't break or corrupt." Before they could discuss further, a massive surge of energy erupted from the ritual circle. The gathered cultists fell to their knees in supplication as the dark vortex expanded dramatically, its edges touching the stone pillars surrounding it. "He comes," the cultists chanted in unison. "Lord Thanatos, Master of the Void, true King of Stars." From within the vortex, a familiar silhouette took shape, the incomplete form they'd seen before, but now larger, more defined. Thanatos stepped through the gateway, his manifestation far more substantial than during their previous encounter. The shadow god stood nearly 12 feet tall, his body composed of what appeared to be the night sky itself, darkness studded with stars that moved beneath his surface. His face was still forming, features shifting between something humanoid and something far more alien, but his eyes burned with the same red fire. "The usurper returns," Thanatos's voice resonated across the valley. "How fitting that you should witness my triumph." Naruto stepped forward, allowing his full celestial aura to manifest. "Your definition of triumph needs work. 5 of your gates destroyed, the spirit world stabilized against your influence, and your cult losing ground across Fiori." Thanatos laughed, the sound like grinding galaxies. "Minor setbacks. This gate alone provides enough power for my return, and the southern anchor ensures I cannot be banished again. Your human allies tire, usurper, while I grow stronger with each passing moment." "He's right about one thing," Erza murmured. "We've been fighting for days. The guild is stretched thin, and even with your energy boost, we're not at full strength." "Then we end this quickly," Naruto decided. "Before he can fully manifest." He turned to his companions. "I need you to keep the cultists off me while I engage Thanatos directly. And be ready when I call you, I'll need your magic connected to mine for the final phase." Both women nodded, determination overriding their exhaustion. Erza summoned a circle of swords around her while Mirajane transformed once more, this time into her Citri form, her strongest Satan soul. "We've got your back," Mirajane assured him, dark wings spreading as she prepared to take flight. "Don't die," Erza added simply, the intensity in her eyes conveying everything else left unsaid. Naruto grinned, the expression reminiscent of his younger self facing impossible odds. "Not planning on it. I still owe Mirajane for that hot chocolate." With that, he charged directly toward Thanatos, golden energy swirling around him as he entered Star Sage mode. The shadow god raised a massive hand, darkness coalescing into a spear that he hurled with devastating force. Naruto dodged with a spirit star step, reappearing above Thanatos with a stellar Rasengan already forming in his hand. He drove the attack downward, connecting with the shadow god's shoulder in an explosion of golden light. Thanatos roared in pain but didn't stagger, his partially manifested form already healing the damage. "You've grown stronger in the spirit world," he acknowledged. "But still so limited by your human thinking." Dark tendrils erupted from the ground around Naruto, forcing him to dodge repeatedly as they pursued him with unnatural precision. Behind him, Erza and Mirajane engaged the cultists who were attempting to reinforce the gate with additional sacrificial energy. "Limited thinking kept your previous gates closed," Naruto countered, forming hand signs in rapid succession. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A dozen clones appeared, each entering Star Sage mode and attacking from different angles. Thanatos responded with a wave of darkness that expanded outward, catching several clones and dispelling them instantly. "Childish tricks," the shadow god dismissed. "I existed before the concept of shadows had formed. Your copies cannot hope to confuse me." "They're not meant to confuse you," Naruto replied as his remaining clones began forming a perimeter around the battlefield. "They're creating a barrier." The clones simultaneously drove their hands into the ground, golden energy connecting between them to form a perfect circle that encompassed Thanatos, the gate, and the central part of the valley. The barrier rose upward, creating a dome of celestial energy that separated them from the outside battle. "Clever," Thanatos conceded. "Isolating us to prevent further energy harvesting. But this merely ensures no one will witness your fall." Inside the barrier, the sounds of battle outside became muffled. Naruto could still sense Erza and Mirajane fighting, but his focus narrowed to the opponent before him, the shadow god who threatened both worlds he called home. "You know, for someone claiming to be the rightful king, you sure spend a lot of time hiding in the void," Naruto taunted, circling his opponent. "The real Spirit King faces his problems head-on." Fury twisted Thanatos' still-forming features. "I was cast out by a fool who feared true power. The old king was a caretaker when he could have been a conqueror, and you squander the throne's potential even more thoroughly with your human sentimentality." "That's where you're wrong," Naruto replied, golden energy condensing around his hands. "The throne's purpose was never conquest. The Spirit King exists to maintain harmony between realms, not dominate them." "Harmony?" Thanatos scoffed. "Realms exist to be consumed, their energy harvested to elevate the worthy. The spirits are tools, humans are vessels, and kings, true kings, take what is offered. And that's why you'll never be king," Naruto stated with absolute certainty. "You don't understand the first thing about what power is for." He launched forward, enhanced by Star Sage mode, and delivered a series of blows that connected with Thanatos' chest and face. Each impact left golden imprints that spread like cracks through the shadow god's form, disrupting his manifestation. Thanatos retaliated with increasing rage, darkness solidifying into claws that tore at Naruto's celestial defenses. One strike broke through, leaving deep gouges across Naruto's chest that leaked golden light instead of blood. "You bleed the stars themselves," Thanatos observed with cruel satisfaction. "Your transformation to Spirit King is incomplete, you retain too much humanity to fully embrace cosmic power." "That's not a weakness," Naruto countered, healing the wound with concentrated energy. "It's exactly why I can beat you." Their battle intensified, celestial techniques clashing with void energy in spectacular displays of power. The barrier containing them trembled with each exchange, Naruto's clone straining to maintain it against the forces being unleashed within. Outside, Erza and Mirajane had nearly finished clearing the cultists, their combined might proving too much for even the most fanatical followers. Through his connection to the clones forming the barrier, Naruto sensed them approaching, prepared to join the fight against Thanatos himself. The shadow god must have sensed it too, because he suddenly changed tactics, driving both hands into the ritual circle beneath them. "You think you've isolated me from my power source? Fool! The gate itself remains active." Dark energy surged upward, enveloping Thanatos in a cocoon of void power mixed with stolen celestial light. His form began to solidify more completely, the shifting aspects of his appearance settling into something both regal and terrifying, a king of shadows with a crown of broken stars upon his brow. "I am completion," Thanatos declared, his voice now perfectly clear and resonant with power. The true celestial order restored. The barrier shattered as Thanatos expanded his presence, Naruto's clones dispelling from the backlash. Erza and Mirajane rushed forward, only to be caught in tendrils of darkness that erupted from the ground at Thanatos's command. "Your anchors to this world," the shadow god observed, lifting them struggling into the air. "How fitting that they should witness your failure before I consume them as well." Seeing his friends captured ignited something primal in Naruto, a protective rage that transcended his role as Spirit King and tapped into the core of who he had always been. Golden energy exploded around him, his star sage mode intensifying until he appeared to be made of pure light. "Let them go." Each word carried the weight of cosmic authority. Thanatos merely tightened his grip, drawing pained gasps from both women. Their connections to other realms make them particularly valuable, the Requip mage with her pocket dimension, the demon soul with her absorbed entities. "Once I've dealt with you, they will become the first of my new zodiac, bound to serve the true king." The casual threat to turn his friends into servants pushed Naruto over the edge. Drawing on power he'd been reluctant to use fully since becoming Spirit King, he extended his awareness beyond the physical battlefield to the cosmic forces surrounding them. "You talk about being the true celestial order," Naruto said, his voice layered with power as stars became visible in the daylight sky above them. "But you've forgotten who actually controls the stars." He raised his hand toward the heavens, and the sky responded. Pinpoints of light intensified, celestial bodies shifting their attention to the battle below. Power unlike anything Thanatos had anticipated began to flow into Naruto, not just the authority of the Spirit King, but the willing energy of the cosmos itself. "Impossible," Thanatos breathed, his confidence wavering for the first time. "The stars respond to your call without coercion." "Because I asked, not demanded," Naruto replied. "That's the difference between us. I serve the realms I protect, you just want to rule them." With a gesture, Naruto sent a pulse of pure celestial energy outward that severed Thanatos's control over Erza and Mirajane, freeing them from his grasp. As they fell, Naruto caught them with cushions of golden light, lowering them safely to the ground. "Are you all right?" he asked, concern evident despite the cosmic power flowing through him. Erza nodded, requipping into her Nakagami armor, her most powerful set for facing spatial magic. "What's the plan?" "We need to close the gate permanently," Naruto explained quickly. "But traditional sealing won't work, he'll just find another way through eventually." "Then what?" Mirajane asked, her Citri form ready for battle once more. "We create a new kind of boundary," Naruto said. "One that allows positive energy flow between realms while specifically rejecting Thanatos's void energy. But I need your help, your connections to your own magics need to be part of the pattern." Understanding dawned in both women's eyes. Erza spoke first. "You need our magic signatures as part of the seal." "More than that," Naruto confirmed. "I need you, your spirits, your essence. The boundary needs to recognize what belongs in each realm and what doesn't. Your unique magics can help define that." "How do we do it?" Mirajane asked without hesitation. Before Naruto could answer, Thanatos attacked again, having recovered from his momentary surprise. A wave of darkness swept toward them, stars being extinguished as it passed. "Together!" Naruto called, reaching out his hands to both women. They moved as one, each taking one of his offered hands to form a triangle facing Thanatos. Power began to flow between them, Erza's dimensional requip magic, Mirajane's soul transformation energy, and Naruto's celestial authority creating a circuit that grew stronger with each passing moment. "What is this?" Thanatos demanded, sensing the threat in their combined power. "What are you attempting, usurper?" "Showing you what real bonds can do," Naruto replied. "Celestial harmonic seal, Trinity formation." The energy flowing between them erupted upward in 3 distinct colors. Gold. Something went wrong with this response, please try again. Move forward and write the next chapter. Start working on the next chapter. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.